Jake Paul's California mansion has been raided by the FBI, multiple news organizations report. You can see in this aerial footage agents in uniform outside his home in Calabasas.
When figures like Anthony Joshua get mentioned, they symbolize something bigger than just a single moment. They represent what unfolds when the safety nets disappear and a competitor faces someone who refuses to play by unspoken rules or get managed through careful planning. Since real championship-level competition reveals weaknesses that no amount of promotion can cover up forever.
Jake Paul's attorney says he was out of state and not at his Calabasas home during that raid today. The FBI says they're investigating allegations of criminal acts for an incident that he's known for being in the public eye. But today, YouTube star Jake Paul is making headlines after an FBI raid at his home in Calabasas. Sky 5 was over the scene Wednesday morning as federal agents entered Paul's home in a gated community off Mulholland Highway. 24 feds, some in tactical gear, could be seen carrying evidence from the property, including several firearms. After the search, a SWAT team was seen leaving in a procession of law enforcement vehicles.
This constantly shifting storyline keeps people hooked, because every claim triggers another video, another statement, another pushback, and another analysis, creating this endless cycle where suspicion transforms into content and the drama itself becomes what drives views, clicks, and non-stop discussion throughout combat sports media. Looking at pure audience engagement, this whole thing delivers because it combines anxiety, scandal, powerful voices, and mysteries that never get solved, keeping viewers coming back with the hope that the next bombshell might either validate their suspicions or completely shatter everything they believe.
Right, because of the weight difference in there. I only know one man that'll do the weight difference like that, and that's the Bronze Bomber. You know, for me, in my opinion, I think it's scripted a little bit because, you know, of the weight difference, and, you know, Joshua is a former, you know, champion. And also, you know, he's current, he's active, you know, and this is going to be the first time that we see Paul, you know, fighting an active fighter. You know what I mean? We seen the Mike Tyson, that was all fun, that was cute, you know what I'm saying? It's fun and games and stuff, but now you're dealing with a real professional.
Really, this goes way beyond Jake Paul himself. It's about this massive clash between old-school fighting values and social media age marketing, where management, viral moments, and image control can sometimes overshadow the raw truth that defines fighting at the elite level. Jake Paul's ability to shake off this credibility question mark won't come from interviews or social media responses, but from his decisions moving forward. If his upcoming battles choose danger over comfort, openness over manipulation, and real competition over show business, opinions can shift. But if these same patterns keep showing up, fans will conclude that once the mask slipped, it was never actually authentic to begin with.
Leaked script, have you seen this?
Move on. If people think that he's going to do a quick two-step and do this, and this, I hope he just goes out and takes his head clean off with the first punch and lets him know who Tommy Fury actually is. There's one interview, and I'm going to name it now, Lyndon Arthur, absolute fantastic, that man. I don't read that much on social media because it's all bullshit, but Lyndon Arthur, thank you very much. From me to you, you said something about Tommy being a proper fighter, can really punch, one of the hardest punches he's been in. Now, for Lyndon Arthur to go and say that, Lyndon Arthur is a proper hard, tough man. We all know that. So, Lyndon, respect, thank you.
The turning point in how people viewed Jake Paul wasn't about one specific hit or one particular evening, but about fans across boxing and MMA slowly realizing that entertainment value, personal branding, and careful opponent picking had gradually taken over from pure competitive drive. When heavyweight names like Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Oscar De La Hoya, Dana White, and Michael Bisping joined the conversation, fight audiences started seeing Paul not as a legitimate boxer, but as representing this manufactured era where storylines get promoted more aggressively than actual skills.
At any point, did you start to take your foot off the gas just a little bit because you noticed he was tiring out?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a bit. You know, I wanted to give the fans a show, but I didn't want to hurt someone that didn't need to be hurt.
Did you carry Mike?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Yeah, like there was a point where, you know, I was just like, okay, he's not really engaging back. And so I don't know if he's tired or whatever. And I could just tell, you know, his age was showing a little bit. And I just have so much respect for him. And that like violence war thing between us, like after he slapped me, I wanted to, be aggressive and take him down and knock him out and all that stuff. But that kind of went away as the rounds went on.
During the aftermath interviews, Paul's place in combat sports history reveals that genuine moments of truth are never neat or movie-like. And his story exists in that murky space where public opinion, behind-the-scenes doubt, and years of internet arguments crash together. Jake Paul's climb was never simply about victories and defeats, but about how those victories got presented, justified, protected, and promoted until supporters began wondering if they were witnessing actual competition or entertainment disguised as real fighting. Those fight-fixing allegations didn't come out of nowhere, since respected competitors like Deontay Wilder publicly questioned whether Paul's matches were legitimate. Oscar De La Hoya repeated what many industry people privately suspected, and even regular viewers started noticing suspicious elements around glove specifications, round durations, opponent choices, and promotional oversight that seemed more like scripted exhibitions than the brutal reality of authentic professional boxing.
If taking Viagra counts, then yes.
I'm going to need a yes or a no.
No.
It's true.
The story escalated when Jake Paul openly acknowledged holding back during certain exchanges. While that might sound like good sportsmanship by itself, within this broader context, it sparked major doubt. In top-level boxing, you're not meant to control the risk for whoever you're fighting, and when that confession spread online, it strengthened the idea that some matches were choreographed for visual impact, rather than decided through pure competitive drive. The drug testing situation became another flashpoint because Dana White's public challenge wasn't presented as rumors, but as demanding honesty from someone claiming to be legitimate. The lack of publicly available, independently confirmed test results let critics fill that gap with theories, connecting apparent physical transformations, past reluctance to accept strict anti-doping requirements, and insider comments into a story that wouldn't go away.
Publicly stated that I use cocaine. I do not. So I told you, you could randomly cocaine test me for the next 10 years. I believe that you're a cheater, and I believe that you use steroids. So I want to randomly steroid test you for the next 2 years. And that thing that you came out with today, nobody on earth thinks that you really wrote that. You're too stupid.
Expert medical analysis, social media breakdowns, and input from people like Dylan Danis kept adding pressure, not because accusations by themselves proved anything, but because all these voices together created a situation where refusing to respond felt less convincing than being completely transparent. Every refusal to share documentation became, in fans' minds, another unresolved issue added to an already extensive list. Official responses from MVP management relied heavily on legal threats and defamation warnings, and while those approaches are standard in high-stakes business, they often work against you in fighting culture where openness builds credibility. Threatening court action doesn't convince fans that results are genuine. It just shows that protecting reputation has become more important than honest accountability.
So that I brought it up, wants to do testing. And he wants to do a set date before the fight. Okay? So he did the cycle, he did whatever, and now he's going to try to take a piss test and clear it and be like, oh, I'm clean. That doesn't count. Okay? It doesn't count. With the money that he has, you can have a doctor clean your system in over 24 hours. Cheeto Vera just went on that podcast and said, you know that. So him doing this is another scam that he does. He's a bullshit artist. He just lies. Everybody knows he's on juice. He's admitted taking peptides. There's doctors that have him in the office saying we're giving him peptides on their website. So like, it's just bullshit. And I don't even care about the steroids thing. It's just like, what are we doing here? He has every advantage. He gets to pick the refs. He gets to pick the fucking judge. It's like, come on.
Dylan Danis, who had his own heated past with Jake Paul, shared images attempting to expose inconsistencies. Michael Bisping's analysis hit harder specifically because it stayed measured and knowledgeable, highlighting how Jake Paul's opponents were usually retired, past their prime, or celebrity-adjacent figures, and that his only fight against a comparable boxer in Tommy Fury ended in loss. This reality supports many critics who insist that credibility can't be established without consistently facing active, motivated professionals.
There has never once in Jake Paul's career been any talk of that sort, of anything to do with the fight being anything but a real fight that has exactly the same situation as any professional fight. And that's exactly the same thing here for the Anthony Joshua fight. It's just beyond mind-blowing that people would think that. Anthony Joshua was on record saying that if he didn't finish him in the first round, that would be disappointing, that it would be a failure. The narrative changed as we got closer to fight night and obviously post-fight, and I understand why, but they were pretty adamant it would take max 2 rounds to knock out Jake Paul.
The federal investigation storyline created another perception problem because even when accusations get dismissed or situations stay unresolved, being repeatedly connected to controversy influences what people believe. In the fighting world where reputation carries as much weight as your record, every news story builds on the feeling that drama follows Paul wherever entertainment value is being maximized.
For being in the public eye, but today YouTube star Jake Paul is making headlines after an FBI raid at his home in Calabasas. Sky 5 was over the scene Wednesday morning as federal agents entered Paul's home in a gated community off Mulholland Highway. 24 feds, some in tactical gear, could be seen carrying evidence from the property, including several firearms. After the search, a SWAT team was seen leaving in a procession of law enforcement vehicles.
The core point here isn't that every match was scripted or every accusation accurate, but that the entire system around Jake Paul's boxing journey seems carefully constructed, from opponent selection to promotional messaging, building an atmosphere where fans feel tricked into accepting authenticity without getting the proof that usually validates that acceptance. Legal proceedings might drag on indefinitely, but for Anthony Joshua, recovery doesn't follow courtroom schedules, since trauma moves in unpredictable ways. Even if justice gets pursued, no verdict can bring back what was taken or reverse the instant when everything shifted. Gerald Miller's heartfelt reaction reveals another dimension, demonstrating that even damaged relationships dissolve when facing death, since tragedy reminds everyone that conflict is fleeting, but compassion emerges naturally when the consequences become undeniably real. People following this situation must confront their own involvement, since clicks, comments, and anger drive narratives that can amplify suffering. Listening to voices like Johnny Nelson suggests taking a step back, remembering that behind every news update is someone trying to survive something beyond imagination. Anthony Joshua's boxing future will always generate discussion, but his future as someone dealing with loss matters far more. Whether he returns to fighting or not, this experience will influence how he handles life, connections, and responsibility long after his career ends. The bigger lesson for combat sports feels difficult but essential, since if the culture keeps rewarding dangerous behavior without serious reflection, more lives risk getting caught in the destruction. People like Eddie Hearn and Tyson Fury are trying to steer the conversation back toward taking responsibility. In the end, this story isn't about picking sides between good guys and bad guys, but about acknowledging real consequences. When lives are lost and pain remains, the only appropriate response involves honesty, self-control, and growth. Whether boxing pays attention might determine if tragedies like this stay exceptional or become commonplace. What stays with you when considering Anthony Joshua isn't the legal action or the media coverage, but the quiet that comes after disaster strikes. When all the commotion dies down and attention moves elsewhere, someone is left reliving moments he can never alter, and no guidance from Eddie Hearn or support from Tyson Fury can fully prepare him for the sleepless nights where memory becomes the most difficult opponent he's ever confronted. It's tempting for fans to simplify the situation into choosing teams, picking Anthony Joshua or Jake Paul, like making fight predictions, but reality doesn't work with judges' scorecards. People like Johnny Nelson keep emphasizing that grief ignores online arguments, since losing people permanently affects you regardless of public opinion. From a personal perspective, Eddie Hearn's approach feels less like business management and more like protection, since when someone you've collaborated with for years almost loses everything instantly, professional relationships become something deeper. His direct communication style suggests someone trying to protect Anthony Joshua from getting consumed by an industry that moves forward too rapidly. Tyson Fury's response connects because he knows chaos personally, understanding how quickly stories can transform from celebration to catastrophe. When he talks about families and relationships, it sounds like a warning to the entire fighting community that the confidence they market can never substitute for the vulnerability they experience daily. Comments from Duke McKenzie and Johnny Nelson carry weight because they represent wisdom rather than promotion. When they question Jake Paul, it feels grounded in genuine concern for a sport they cherish, frustrated by a culture where entertainment sometimes moves faster than accountability, leaving people exposed to consequences they never agreed to face. Anthony Joshua surviving, while seated in the back, carries devastating significance, because staying alive can feel like a burden when combined with loss. That awareness alone can completely transform someone's sense of self, converting confidence into carefulness and drive into deep thought. Almost immediately. For Jake Paul, being connected to this situation might become a crucial turning point, not because of legal results, but because public perception solidifies rapidly. Once people link your name with carelessness and tragedy, changing that image demands the kind of modesty and responsibility that fame doesn't automatically provide. What disturbs many supporters is how rapidly triumph became grief, since one day Anthony Joshua dominated news for athletic achievements, and the next, he was struggling for emotional survival, showing how narrow the gap truly is between success and devastation in elite athletes' lives. Carl Frosch's anger reflects wider frustration within boxing, where many believe the sport is being torn between tradition and spectacle. This incident creates difficult questions about how far entertainment can extend before it crashes into reality in ways that can never be undone.